Hello and welcome to Couple of Instigators. I'm very excited tonight because I have the one and only comedian extraordinaire, Amy Stephens.
Oh, you're so kind. Extraordinaire is quite the build-up, though.
Amy, I'm not woke, okay? Like, me and you have had this conversation, okay? That I struggle with, the pronouns. And I mean, I accept everybody, but my old self needs to learn what the pronouns mean and, all of that. Like, it's a lot sometimes for an old broad, okay?
Well, and as far as pronouns go, I mean, I think a lot of people our age, I mean, you and I are about the same age.
Mm-hmm.
I goof up with other trans people, other non-binary people.
I know it, and I feel nervous a lot. Like, I don't want to offend because obviously me being a lesbian, I'm accepted. You know what I mean? It's fine. But I know with the pansexual, and Amy, if I wasn't with someone, I would date you. So I am now pan. Right?
Well, I would still label that as a lesbian because
that's true.
Because, and that maybe we can get into this, when we talk about, dating,
right.
At a high level, because I identify myself when I talk or when I write about myself, because I do a lot of that. I identify as a woman who happens to be transgender. So if that woman is on the front end of that, you're a cisgender woman, I'm a transgender woman. So yeah, we have different experiences in life, but what two people in life have the exact same experiences? But since we both start from that starting point of woman, then I, from a sexuality standpoint, we're kind of jumping ahead, but lesbian is the term that I still prefer to use when I look at that. And also, you talk about pansexual and everything. There's monogamy. There's polyamory. And
asexual. Then wait, somebody identified to me. I got to remember what it was. Amy, I was so confused.
Oh, we had a guest on our podcast. It was a asexual romantic.
That's it. Bi-romantic.
Yeah.
Right.
What does it mean?
There's so much, Jen, to learn. It's so much to learn. And
yeah. And in her case, it was just a matter of like, for her, sex was neither here nor there, but she likes intimacy and romance. So that's going to have
like the flowers and the touching.
Yeah. The touching, the cuddly, the emotional intimacy. So on a lot of levels, as a woman, that makes sense to me. So, I'm Gen X, I'm 48. And, I think once you go north of 48, as far as age, I think a lot of these different labels get, for a lot of people get very hard.
I'm a boomer. I'm 57. So I'm like up there in the boomer age. And I still I have a friend of mine who transitioned from female to male. And I still say she sometimes. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm not. She's like, no, everyone does, because she just started to transition. So I still say she, and I'm like, I don't mean to hurt you. And she's like, no, not at all. I know it's like second nature, and you have to readjust.
So let me just give everybody a quick little pointer.
Yes.
Like you're in this world, you're trying to do your best, and you have friends that are transitioning, and you're going to goof up. Here's the best way to handle this is just say, oops, I'm sorry, and move on.
Right.
Don't even dwell on it. The other day, I was talking with my dad, and he used my old name with me. I mean, he's known me for 48 years.
Right.
So
and it's tough. Yeah.
It is tough. He used my old name, and he let it out. And then all of a sudden, he's like, I'm sorry, Amy. I didn't even address it. He addressed it in real time. There was no need for me to address it. We just kept on moving with the conversation. I had a conversation with some friends a few weeks ago. They used the wrong pronouns for me, but they made no attempt. And then at the end of the conversation, then I did address it. I'm like, hey, I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is. But when we're also in front of my kids, it is a big deal to me that you use, my pronouns.
Right.
So, it's who you are as a person. It's like saying somebody's name wrong.
I do it all the time, though.
That's right? Like
I can't even get people's names right. It's just
Names are important. Names and pronouns.
Isn't it horrible at work? I've been working with some people and I call them by a different name still. Like it's, I don't know I have a horrible face name recognition as it is. So, but yeah, so I know I catch myself with him and I'm just like, he's like, it's just second nature. But yeah. So, Amy, how long has it been since you started transitioning? I mean, I only know you. I don't, know you as Amy. So
there's a couple different functions of that. So,
right.
If you want to say medically, I'm about 21 and a half months. So just coming up on 2 years on hormone replacement therapy. In fact, today it's 92 weeks exactly.
Okay.
And I made a post on that and on Facebook in our Transformation Thursday group. But there's also a huge social component. And so I came out to my first person back in February of 2017. So just over 3 years from a social component of saying, hey, I identify as something other than a cisgender male.
Right.
And at first I thought I came out as a cross-dresser. That evolved to gender fluid. Then I was like, I don't know how this is going to be. And then, so it took me, from early 2017 to mid 2018 to really get to the point of like, yeah, I need to be on hormones and make that transition medically speaking. But even as late as 2018, I was still toying with the idea of trying to keep it as gender fluid, present male part-time, present female part-time. But that just, from a mental standpoint, it just wore me down. And July of last year, when I hit a year on hormones, I made the full transition to full-time. So it took me a year even after. And so, yeah, so you know me from comedy. So we're about a year plus, almost a year.
I remember when I first met you, I think you were still
going part-time.
Yeah. And then, but it was just very brief. And then now you recently legally changed your name. Do I remember you posted, right?
Yep. Yeah. So I legally changed my name. I did all the document stuff. I got the court stuff taken care of end of last year, and I did all the document changes January of this year. So my driver's license, my passport, my social security, everything is now Amy. And I'm not going to say it on air here, but the little tidbit is Amy Stephens is my middle name.
Okay.
So so it's Amy Stephens, and then I still use my birth last name. So
right.
And Stephens, Stephen was my middle name. That's my dad's name. So I still wanted to keep that in there. Yeah. So I didn't want to lose that. And the quick story on how I chose Amy is when I was growing up, I wanted to know what I would have been named if I was born female. And so my parents told me it was Amy. That would have been my name if I would have been signed female at birth. And every time my brother would make fun of me for being girly, quote unquote, he would call me Amy. So
that's awesome. I love that.
So the name stuck. And so when I started this process, and one of the first times where I got fully dressed up as presented female back in 2017, it was Amy right from the get-go. And as soon as I was changing back to present as a male, I felt that spirit of Amy inside me saying, you might be taking me off, but you're never going to be able to put me away.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
How old were you when you knew?
Oh, how old was I when I knew? So I'm not the typical trans person where a lot of trans people will say, oh, I knew when I was 4. The co-host Penny Sterling on our podcast, I should say, she knew when she was like 7 or 8. I enjoyed wearing girls' clothes from a very young age, but I never said this is something I have to do. It wasn't until I was in college, 23, around, early mid-20s when I just said this is what I want to do. And now this is why dressing up and cross-dressing and all these things make sense. So I was able to retrofit that in. But it was in my early 20s.
Wow.
And when and I have a first ex-wife too from when I was in college. And she recently, about 3-4 months ago, she Facebook messaged me and said, hey, by the way, congratulations. I'm not shocked one bit.
Oh.
So
yeah.
She knew.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you, you just posted recently a picture of you before, and you made a comment on your picture about your eyes, and I looked, and I was like, did you get your eyes done? I mean, what a difference you're in just your eyes. Like, you didn't have your eyes done, your lids, did you?
I've had no surgery done.
Nothing.
I've had no surgery to date done on any part of my body. All my medical transition so far has only been through hormone replacement therapy. So the eyes were the first things that gave me away. So I remember it was probably late 2018. One of my in-laws messaged my now ex-wife and said, what's up with his appearance? What's going on? Because that was the thing that actually started giving me away, were my eyes. It's two things.
Okay, because Amy, I need to know what you've done, because it looks like you literally had an eye lift.
Yeah, no,
I mean, it's like, I was like, girl, what have you done? Because look, I need that.
It's what happens on hormones from a male to female standpoint is there's a redistribution of facial fat. So that's why my chin line has become and jawline has become very defined. I've always had great cheekbones.
Yeah.
My 11-year-old daughter has about the same facial features as I do from here down. But with the eyes, it just moved everything around, redistributed it, and it totally opened them up.
I mean, did you see? I sent Jen your Instagram so she could, browse through it. But I was just like, wow. I mean.
But
and you look so much happier. I mean, you could see that too. Like it's your authentic self. But you look like you got an eye lift. It was like, whoa.
And the interesting thing about that is not only did the skin and the shape around them change, but I think also my eyes got bluer.
Yeah.
Like, I've always had nice blue eyes, but I remember I was in Paris about a year and a half ago, right? And the eye changes are some of the first things to change on HRT.
Okay.
In this, I'm assuming she was from the Middle East someplace, but she just gazed into my eyes and like she was in a trance, and I'm like, I had to like snap my fingers like, hi. If you're from a culture that's not used to seeing blue eyes, and then you see, I'm not trying to brag, but you all of a sudden mine pop out at you.
Yeah.
Because I look at pictures of myself now and I'm like, whoa, my eyes.
Well, your makeup game is on point. Your makeup game is, I told you that when I saw you when you came into the shop for pizza too. I was like, you look, like your makeup is on point. You're like, I've been working on it. I'm like, you're killing it.
Yeah. Cindy sent me your Instagram post, and you were a very good looking man. But seeing you now, like you would never, how, I don't know, this is probably the totally wrong thing to say, but like if I ran into you at the street, I would never think, oh, that you see it. Like you are a beautiful woman. Like.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just you really, really strikingly beautiful.
I'm telling you, I'm loving me some, I love me some Amy. I'd say, I'm like, when you came into Rhinos, I was like, that's my girl. I love me some Amy.
Yeah.
She's like mesmerizing to me. She just puts me in a trance. She's so sweet and soothing, and I don't know. There's just your warmness just shows, like your kind, warm heart. It's So
and my kids have noticed that change too. So
how old are your kids?
I have an 18-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old daughter.
How did they deal?
The 18-year-old, she was 17, a senior in high school last year when I came out to her, and she handled it as well as she could. But
it's a tough age.
It's a tough age. So she handled it pretty much as what I would have expected her to. But I did a podcast episode about 2 months ago with her, and it was like the longest we sat down, really. Because she's in college now, but we just had this long, good 40-minute therapy-like session, and so it was good. We cleared the air, and both my kids are. They both say I'm happier and I'm not as quick to anger, and it's just they would rather have Amy.
Yeah, your youngest is absolutely adorable. I have met her before, Clarissa.
Yep.
I've met her.